Behave now.
Behave. There's only 6 participants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Are we good?
All set, Counselor Johnson.
Thank you very much. Item number 1, call the meeting to order. Welcome to the February 8th Town Council Communication Committee meeting. I call this meeting to order. Item number 2 is the roll call. I shall do, Tracy, do you want to do the roll call, please?
Sure. Counselor Anderson,
Here.
Counselor Katerina,
Here.
Counselor Johnson.
Here. Thank you. Before we move on, I'd like to make an agenda amendment. The motion is to defer item number 8 until the next meeting or a meeting of our desire.
Mr. Chair, I have a request. Can you share the agenda? Because I didn't print it out and I don't have my second screen here. Thank you.
See how quick I am?
Yeah, you're good, Allison.
So item number 8 is the public engagement noticing manual that Liam sent to us.
Yeah, is that the one Larissa did?
Yes, it's a very well read document.
Yeah, I worked on that with
Okay,
her.
so I just wanted to defer that to another meeting because there's a
Yep.
couple topics on here that I think need some robust discussion. And to be very honest, I did not spend the time needed on this manual to have an intelligent discussion. So,
That's because you were too busy watching the charter subcommittees.
well, I know that.
I
and the
didn't say
downtown
that.
committee and, you know, keeping TD Bank afloat. That's true.
I know. Jeez,
Believe it or not,
right, I'm sorry.
I am one of 3 out of 68,000, 3 employees designated a critical employee to keep the bank going. Don't tell me.
Wow, my money's there, so I want you,
But
I
it's,
want you to keep it going.
it's
Because
a
my
heavy
money's
burden.
there.
Okay.
Yes,
So do I
okay.
have a second on that motion?
Second.
Call the vote, please, Tracy?
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Katerina,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes, thank you very much for being so understanding. So number 4 is the, on the agenda, if you want to pull that up, please, Liam, is the analytics. Now I have just a couple
Need to do the minutes.
comments on it.
You
Yes,
need to
Tracy?
do the minutes.
Oh,
Approval of minutes.
item number 3. We need to approve the January 11th, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
I have a roll call.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Katerina,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for correcting me on that, Tracy. I appreciate it. Item number 4, which is in the packet. It's the analytics. I don't know if anybody had time to actually look at it. I did. I have a couple comments and then maybe some questions that we can get to along with anybody else on the committee. I see definitely an increase in traffic in general. Allison, what is the time period that it's compared to? Is it just the prior month? Or the prior?
It's just compared to the prior month.
Okay.
And that was a new change that's going to be ongoing now, is that he is including.
Great, thank you very
Yeah,
much. So I definitely see a good traffic increase in general. I think it's a great increase in committee and boards. I don't know if that's a result of promoting or the ad hoc, but I definitely see that. How do we define a new user? Because I see the new users, if you see it in about the center down by the bottom, we have users and then new users, and the new users are pretty impressive. 3,500 this month.
Yes, so I believe the new users are just people who haven't been on the website before because the computer would have been tracking that. And Brian indicated that that's a good sign to see how well Google is picking up on certain search results. So
Right.
I think it's people who are searching something on Google and then they click on a link to get to our website from there.
Right, so that we must track IP addresses or something, right, to make that determination. So
Mhm.
that's actually pretty interesting. And then I saw that the search term of the downtown and marijuana were the same. That
Mm.
was just a tidbit. you look over on the search term on the page views, we've got the downtown committee at 12, taxes and marijuana. Now, I think it might be interesting when we look at the same thing in February, because if you all recall, the workshop was front page news on the Leader. That goes to 10,000 people, okay? Whether it's in Scarborough or outside Scarborough, goes to at least 10,000 residents. And then we actually had a council corner in there on marijuana. I think they jived well. I'm not sure. I read them both and only once because I wrote it. And so I think they work together. So it might be interesting to see that on next month, because that will be a search term. So are there any other comments, questions on the analytics? Are what we're seeing on the analytics useful for us, or are they just fun facts? Or what are your thoughts, Jean Marie and John?
Can I add a couple of things first?
Absolutely.
So the two biggest jumps for the popular pages were employment opportunities and the boards and committees. And that's because I worked with Brian and we made some changes to the homepage of the website for having 4 buttons front and center that we want to drive traffic to. And those were the 2 that we added to the homepage buttons.
And which 2 of those? Could you say that again? Which 2 of those?
We had a now hiring or employment opportunities right when you go onto the website homepage. And so
Okay.
there's increased traffic there. And then we had one that was called agendas and minutes to drive traffic there. And there was no central repository for where all the agendas and minutes are. So we drove it to the boards and committees page. Probably where that increase came from.
It's very good. I mean, definitely overall, we're getting more hits, which is good. I mean, when I started the council last year, I think there was a general feeling of apathy in the town, and I'm not seeing that with especially with the turnout on all the appointments and negotiations. I mean, we filled over 50 slots on folks, and attribute an awful lot to you, Allison, with that drop down online sign up sheet versus, print it off, fill it out, mail it in.
Right.
Welcome to the 21st century, Scarborough. So actually, I'm pretty impressed with that. So let's keep this, keep that up. I would like to see this every month. And actually, I'm going to make it a point to share this with the full council during liaison comments. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments?
I think it's good. I think the one thing you said, Ken, that will be interesting for us to think about is, again, like knowing that, like, what's happening this month and what do we want to see change, like you said, with marijuana or the downtown committees, just to kind of, again, flag that for now and keep it top of mind when we meet next time to see, to your point, like, does marijuana go from 7 to 2?
Right.
Do we see charter? Like, I don't see charter on here, which I'm surprised, right? That's not on there, given.
Search. Let me see.
Would it be under ordinances? Because you got to go into ordinances to find
Well,
charter.
see, and the downtown could be the downtown committee, or it could, it should be related to the downtown of the Downs, right?
That's
So,
my assumption.
yeah. So I'm making a little bit of a leap there,
Mhm.
but anybody that lives in Scarborough knows we don't have a downtown, so I don't think they'd
Yeah.
be searching for it on the web.
Well, and I think,
Yeah. That's an
I think-
interesting point. I
Yeah.
don't see a charter search on that. Now, what's the drop off? Do you know, Allison? When does it not show up? If there's 1 or 2, or
What do you mean?
over on your search terms?
Oh, I think he probably just shows the top 20 ones.
So it could be there, right?
It could be there. It could just be
Okay.
not one of the top 20. Yeah.
mhm. And I think it'll be interesting, again, with the 2 committees to see, and again, it just depends on whether it's a priority for the ad hoc committees to promote their webpage, because I know, Allison, you've done a great job. I'm pretty sure it was you creating the 2 pages for both subcommittees where committees where there's a lot of really good information that the public might
Right.
want. And so I don't think we've really talked within the committees yet in terms of how do we communicate or engage the community. But it'll be interesting to see if those start to show up on what do users
I
look at
believe
when they visit.
I think that's another agenda item, but it will be good. The only promotion I've done of it so far is that it just kicked off and kind of based on that article that you had written, John. But it would be good to track those pages specifically after we do a push highlighting.
Yeah.
the-
Yeah, and that's why we have these discussions, to give some ideas, and maybe, because if you look at item number 5 on pages hit, that's boards and committees, which would include the ad hoc, and look at that.
Okay.
I mean, there's a 78% increase from last month. So
Mhm.
that very well could be attributed to a couple of these residential committees, you know? So again, real interesting stuff as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Breezing right along. No other comments? Oh, I did have a couple little quick things. I'm sorry I pestered you on this. Any increase in the newsletter?
Yes, I did want to add the additional analytics. So there's an increase on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, kind of, newsletter. We have 51 new signups since last month, so in the past month.
Yep.
And then board applications, I just saw that that's steadily increasing each time it gets
Right.
included in an e-newsletter. So on all fronts, there have been increases.
Great. Now, as a side note, I know this is keeping in the general conversation. For future, we'll get to with the future agenda items. I've had discussions with the committee chair on the Board of Education Communication Committee. And they would like to have a joint workshop with us next month, so we can talk about that. But what excited, because I've done those before, and I feel like a fish out of water. I mean, that's why the BOE runs the school and not the council. There's a good reason for that. But their real high priority objective, again, is to push out the subscription to e-news. Because they
To our e-news or to their?
our e-news.
Okay, great.
Okay, because it's easy, very easy to just push over to the school. But anyway, we'll have that discussion with the workshop. But it would be great if we had 2 groups thinking about how to do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that because I'm seeing that it's increasing steadily. And I know from what I'm doing, I'm just repeating the message just for people to sign up, but I think I'm talking to the same people over and over again. So it would be good to get creative.
Just to broaden it out a little bit, especially in COVID times, because
we don't have events for people to.
that's right.
I
You
know.
know, and I know part of our minutes last month that probably didn't get done, and I understand it, was to, you know, try to revitalize the Be Informed campaign. And that's what it was. It was more of a foot soldier, you know, effort.
Mhm.
So, and we still can't do that. I mean, even if you think about it, we were designing some material, even to pass out the material still now is a little off, right?
Yeah.
You just don't do it. So we're still kind of handcuffed on that, but we'll talk about that on the next one.
So Ken, just so I understand, are they looking to promote the e-news to get people to sign up? Or are they trying to use the e-news more for themselves to kind of get their message out?
Right. Well, I'm not going to answer for them. I think that's why we'll have the discussion.
Okay.
No, it's been 2-3 line sentences. Leanne and BOE are just like us. They are, you know, they have full-time jobs. They work. They're super busy. And, you know, she reached out to me and said, yeah, let's get together. Let's have a discussion about the e-news. So of course, then my mind went a lot of different ways without her even saying it. But I said, yeah, let's have the discussion. Because I said, the committee I'm on, I think we definitely see the value in getting a subscription out. So we can take it, we'll see what they're thinking. We can, and we'll take it from there on the next meeting. One other item, if you don't mind, before we move on to item number 5. Does this, and Leah might have to chime in, does the second Monday of the month work for you, John, and you, Jean Marie?
I think so.
Yep.
Because the first Monday of the month is just not working for me. You know, I'm on appointments. I'm on a liaison for the planning board, which goes to about 10:30. It's a 16-hour day for me, and I'm not 30 anymore. I just can't do it. I will do it, but if there's an easy fix to just jump to the second Monday of the month.
Yeah, that works for me. Looking at my,
Liam, is there anything special we have to do for that? I mean, I don't see it written in stone anywhere that we meet the first Monday of the month.
No, because I think that usually when the council committees form, one of the first things they do is they determine their meeting date and time. And so I think that was something we probably just glossed over when this
Yes.
formation moved.
Yes.
So I don't think that there's anything to say that you can't set the second Monday of every month at 4 p.m. as the regular meeting date.
Okay.
you just want to make sure it's in that calendar.
Yep. It also
correctly.
requires a motion. I would expect. that.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to make a motion on that while we're right here. So I will
Second,
move the town council communication meeting to the second Monday of the month at
and I'll
4.
second that.
Second that.
Council,
Vote on that, Tracy?
Council Anderson,
Yes.
Council Katarina,
Yes,
Council Johnson.
Yes, and thank you very much for your flexibility, guys. That definitely helps me out. And BOE said they could accommodate either day. So anyway, item number 5. This is a discussion of topics for council communication, e.g. counselor. I'm doing 3 mouses here. I sent this out to the other committee members. I see that John, you came in, you reviewed, made some comments, and actually I think made some additions. Jean Marie, did you have an opportunity to do that?
no,
Okay. So let's just talk about this in general for a minute. Okay. And again, these are suggested topics. These aren't mandatory topics. It's somebody might wake up one day and go, I feel like communicating with my citizens. What can I write about? And this is there to give them some ideas. So did you happen to have a chance to at least look at the document, Jean Marie?
no.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I haven't done my homework. You can keep me after school, that's fine.
Mhm.
Okay.
Question to you is how often does Counselor Corner come out?
Well, let's talk about that. Counselor Corner comes out the first Friday of every month.
Okay,
But we also have a Counselor Corner on the newsletter twice a month, on the 1st and the 15th.
so the first one could be what's in the Counselor Corner and the leader,
Say that again.
right?
Yeah,
The
that's what we
first-
have been doing.
Yeah, the first one for the news, the so-called email newsletter could be
Yes.
whatever you put in the leader.
Well, we have tried to leverage things when they make sense. I think we've done that twice. We
Yeah.
did that with the Masonic Hall purchase.
Yeah.
And we did it with the marijuana.
Yeah.
To me, it makes sense to do that unless you've got some burning issue,
Correct. No,
which then just leaves you with the newslet, the second one for the newsletter.
correct. And I 100% agree with you. And when Eric Conrad came and visited our committee, Eric Conrad is the head of communication.
Yeah, I know, Eric.
He suggested doing the same thing, leveraging what we're doing on the newsletter to the leader
Yeah.
with a little bit of tweak. And I did that with the marijuana thing, because in our newsletter, we talked about the workshop.
Right,
By the time the leader came out, the workshop had already happened. Okay, so there were just some minor adjustments. But yes, absolutely leverage. And I actually, on that. So back to the topics, if you could, Jean Marie, just give it a little bit of time to look at it, because what I would like to do is, again, bring this forward to the full council. I have a couple non-action items I want to discuss. And for anybody that's not real familiar with the town council, a non-action item for the town council is if it can fit on an agenda, which is typically a thin night agenda, not a heavy night agenda, right? And it's just brought up to the floor for discussion. So there's no vote. It's kind of a good way to get a feel on how the other councilors are feeling. And an awful lot of what we want to do needs the blessing of the full council. So what I would like to do is not in the near future, but not too far out, is to bring this item up to the full town council after we've gone through it a couple times and just ask for them to review and also to give input.
Well, if you are what you wanted me to read, is this on this document you've got up here right now?
No, it's not. It's actually,
Okay.
I should have probably had that as part of the packet, and I didn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because if it gets separated out, then I miss things.
Yeah.
I get so
So-
darn many emails in the course of a day that,
Mhm.
I understand.
So Ken, my thought for my understanding of the other list of topics was really to kind of have things in the queue that could be used if we decide if it's a relatively light,
right,
time
Right.
period. Whereas like, at least in my view, in the next 6 months with the two subcommittees, the budget,
Yep.
and the GMO and probably some other things I'm forgetting. Like, I feel like we have plenty of stuff that will
Correct.
be relevant. That list is probably going to be more useful for the latter half of the year, where it might be a little bit slower. We'll want to have, certain things out there. So I thought it was a really, really good comprehensive list of topics that we could develop. What we might want to do is just kind of pick the top 5 items that might be worth working on when times are slow, to have those ready in the queue if we want to execute them. Because again, I still think having relevant topics are better. And I think at least for the next 6 months, we're going to have plenty of content, I think, to cover.
No,
I agree. I
No, I
agree. with
agree.
that.
And that's why this is really not a pressing thing. And that's why, Jean Marie, I was just kidding. I knew, I know.
No, you can pick on me.
Yeah.
It's my
So it's-
fault.
Yes.
I'm not,
Right. So it's not hugely pressing. I agree with John. I think the original intent was to come up with a list of general topics. I think if on the spreadsheet, and again, it was my first step. I categorized the topics. I then gave a topic under that categorization, and then a timing of the topic. And an awful lot of it is anytime or pipeline. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's fluid, but you're right, John. It would be great to have an inventory of documents, of articles that sometimes it could be relevant, because one of the categories is growth, right? We're dealing with growth right now, right? But we could pull some off the shelf things that are related to growth and not even necessarily what we're dealing with right now on growth, just to keep the folks informed, because there's just so much information that we have access to that they don't. And let me give you an example. But my first topic under growth is traffic. Okay, now that's not necessarily meaning, hey, we got a lot of traffic in town. But the average person, and I throw myself in that bucket because I've been fairly quick study. I learned real quick what we can do, what we can't do. Is there are certain roads in the town that are DOT roads that we can't do anything with without a partnership of DOT, right?
right,
And then there are certain roads that we own and maintain and have a little bit more flexibility. Not everybody understands that. So you could do a real benign topic
Mhm.
of just some good information on traffic that's not inflammatory, whatever, but to educate, inform the folks that, yeah, we do have some traffic issues, but some of it's out of our hands.
Is that better coming though from the traffic engineer than from one of us?
Well, if we could get the traffic engineer to do some articles, I would agree. However, there's nothing wrong.
Or we could interview the
Correct.
traffic engineer and write something?
That's absolutely correct.
Hold on, I gotta put a light on here. Hold on.
Just one topic that comes top of mind, and I think you kind of had it in your list. You had something on zoning,
Yes.
but like we've been doing so much conversations lately around zoning amendments versus contract amendments.
Correct.
Contract
And-
zones, yeah.
Yeah, then that to me is just something like if people are watching, or even if people are submitting those types of amendments, like just to educate them a little bit more on what those are, and
That's right. That's right.
to me
And,
that
you
would
know,
be beneficial.
And how when the zoning was defined, there was certain permitted uses, and there could be some rationale that we don't know about because it was done prior to our time, but we could extrapolate some at least educated guesses on to, again, just to educate the folks. Yeah, that's all this is just trying to inform the folks. That's all.
My just that was going through my head is, as you're talking, is the first Friday one, in other words, one that's in the leader
Yep.
and would be in the newsletter also, would be a topic that's hot. In other words,
Yeah.
it's something that's right immediate. And then maybe
Yeah.
your second one could be a series of different, did you know,
Mhm.
Yep.
you know, and talk about, did you know that traffic in town, actually the state controls X, you know, Y and Z or whatever.
That's
But
right.
do that as your second newsletter
That's
thing.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, and some of it, and that again, a reason to build that subscription out as far as you can, because as we are right now, we're at about 1,800 new e-news and about 10,000 leader. Now, granted, not everybody in either category is reading everything and absorbing everything, but there is a little bit of a disconnect. So we always have to keep that in mind. And by the way, the leader, I'm going to own the leader this coming month, and it's going to be on growth. Because
Uh-oh, you better check with me.
you hold on a second. I am going to elicit Liam and Allison to make sure it's tempered, okay, and
Okay.
Mhm.
and informed, okay.
Okay.
So
Good.
Mhm.
because it's real easy to do unintentionally put something in, you know, erroneous, and that's why we should work, you know, together. Because I don't know about you, but communication is not my strong skill set. I just have a passion because I understand the value of communicating. Okay, so hold on just a second, because I do believe I have I do not. I do not. What I thought was, again, timing is everything. But I would like to have you give some thought about, again, a non-action item for discussion with the town council on just basically communicating with our residents, because we have 3 opportunities a month. There are 7 counselors. There have been 4 counselors in 1 year that have communicated it through these vehicles, okay? And sometimes it's like pulling teeth, and I get it, okay? It's not everybody's strong suit. They don't want to put themselves out there. Allison is a great person to help offset that angst. You could just come up with a topic, blow out a couple paragraphs, she can read it and throw it back to her. Hopefully, Allison, I'm not committing you to something that
No.
you're not
fine.
fully. But I mean, I found that, you know, I mean, that it works well. So if you think about it, on a yearly average, we have 36 opportunities to directly communicate as a council to our residents. That's part of our responsibility. I think anybody and everybody I know that has ever run for town council says that we need to inform the public. right? That's why we're all big proponents of the public process. And I'm getting a lot of feedback from a lot of folks that definitely point to things are getting better. Not necessarily the content, but at least they know we're trying. And human nature is, at least if you're trying, I'm going to give you some points. I may not believe or agree with what you're telling me, but I'm going to give you some points. And I think we're moving in the right direction. So at some time, we'll come back to it about an action item to the full council about a commitment to communicate with the residents. Because again, out of 7, that's 4 articles a year. I know we're all busy. Is that 4? Does that do the math? It's 5 articles a year. Sorry. It's 5.12 articles a year. Somewhere along the line, as busy as we get, everybody should be able to find time to come up with an article every 3 months or 2.5 months. So we'll have that discussion.
Ken, do you still like the process of for the e-newsletter, me reaching out to you and then you reach out to the counselors to get someone to contribute, or?
Well, if you don't mind, until we have that discussion, yeah, because I'll tell you, I've had one counselor, thank goodness for him, reaches out to me. Hey, do you need something for the e-news? You know, and I'll say, hey, yeah, thank you very much, or no, somebody else is doing something, or I've got this or something. I do appreciate the tickler you send me as a reminder.
I'll be doing that soon because I just realized we have one on.
In 2 days. Have you got something?
Right.
But I'm hoping again with just discussion with the council that it becomes, I don't know, maybe I have to bring it up. Maybe it just becomes second nature. Everybody understands that we are, because everybody's reading them. I mean, the counselors, we're all reading them. We just need, and I understand not everybody might want to contribute. That's not a problem. There's not going to be criticism or judgment on that. Again, it's not everybody's forte. It is definitely not mine, but I'll put myself out there all day long. Okay, so let's move on. Number 6, I'd really like to spend some time on this. So I'm going to cue it up, so bear with me. This is the municipal survey. This topic has been kicked around forever. Thanks to Councilor Jean Marie Caterina, 2 years ago in the budget process, we got $10,000 allocated for a community survey. Okay, with just a random number, but it was a good number. Okay,
And
So
it was
that-
like pulling teeth to get it too.
Yeah. Now we preserve that. Okay, so we have $10,000 in a fund that has already been funded by the taxpayers. So we're not going out to reach to the taxpayers and go, we want, $10,000 community. We already have this. And it may be more than that, but that's something worth a discussion. So I'm interested to hear from the other committee members and the full council, because this is definitely going to be a non-action item going to the council soon, not this month, but maybe next month, because I think everybody is interested and has the desire to do a community survey. We've had, in the last 30 years, we've had town specific, not community center or any other sideshow, side effort, I'm sorry, not sideshow, poor choice of words. We've had one in 2010, which is actually in the packet. If you want to drill down on that packet, Mr. Liam. Sorry about my dog. Okay. Yeah, could you stay at the top for a second, Liam? Hey, cool it. He was just voting.
I was gonna say, get a hold of that dog.
He's voting. Somebody's in the dooryard.
Oh,
So the gist of this is, this was done in 2010. This was more, very valuable, okay? But this was more quality of life, overall satisfaction with our town services. Okay, very interesting. We need to know that. We should know that. And periodically, we should be able to reach out and get the pulse of the community on what their thoughts are. Okay, so there's a list, there's an outfit, this is a third-party vendor that did this for us. They're still available. And they went out to see how we felt, how our community feels about our police, our fire, our community service, our public works. I do believe in even the town councilors or representatives, library services, things like that. All very important information.
Ken, do you remember how they did it, what the methodology was?
Yes, the methodology on this one, and this was done in 2010, okay? The methodology on this one was random phone calls,
Yeah, okay.
okay? And it was 239 people contacted and responded on this.
So it was done scientifically.
Yes, you can see right here, total, I'm sorry, 246 responded.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I know statistically that's probably pretty sound. Okay, however, I'd like to focus on the prior survey, which was in the year 2000, that was done by an outfit that still is in Portland, and I had a good discussion with them. They were part of the Growth and Services Committee. There was a committee, town council established committee to go out and look at growth and our services. Now, if you've never read this report, I strongly recommend when you have some time to read the report. I can send it to you if you don't have it, because you might not be able to find it on our Google search on the new site, but I have it locally. Fascinating report. We hired many consultants. Surveying was only one of the consultants, okay? But the reason why I find it fascinating is because it is loaded with metadata, with metrics from age to population to everything that you will see now in almost every document that talks about planning or funding, everything. Now, granted, the numbers change, but the metrics themselves stay the same, which is great. It was a great fallout from that. But that document, I mean, the outfit that did that was, you hold on a second. Design Decisions, again, they're in Portland.
Yeah.
They did it in 2000, and they had also done it in 1990. And the real interesting part was they showed the decade over decade, and that was more of a trend
Right.
analysis. And this is what I mean. We just saw the topics on the survey, which I said very valuable. But on the one that was done in 90 and 2000 involved things like growth, environment and open spaces, land use and zoning, public education, community character, affordable housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What happened out of this 2000 survey was our GMO. Our GMO came into play in 2001 as a direct result of this growth and services report. Okay, so if you really want to understand the intent of our GMO, read this report. Also, the 2006 comp plan, awful lot of what came out of this report went to the 2006
Right.
comp plan. All the diagrams, all the data, everything. That's when we started getting into, really calling out affordable housing in our zoning and in our comp plan, more of a density base on this. So very interesting. The reason why I bring it up is my thoughts on a community survey should be a blend of the two. We do want to know what the people think about their overall satisfaction of living in the town and the services they receive. But I think we also need to know, especially now, that what are the trends in thinking on land use, on growth, on density? We sit right now having discussions on GMO, looking at it from our own personal lens, hopefully at least supported by the people that sent us to the town council, because that's the way I look at things. However, the people that send me to the town council aren't representatives of everybody in the town. Okay. Now, when the 2010 one was done, I mean, the 2001 was done, it went out, listen to this, it went out to 6,500 homes. That's how many homes that we had in the year 2000. And the reason why I like these guys were simple little things. We send a tax bill to an apartment house. We send one tax bill, right? So that's not a good way to identify everybody that lives in a town, especially multifamily or multiplex or rentals, okay? This outfit actually went to every single apartment building and got addresses. And before they sent out the survey, because they sent out to 6,500 homes in the year 2000. We had a 39% return rate. That's phenomenal, okay? And then what they did was they did a follow-up phone canvassing on the difference, on the other 61% that did not. And they did, I think, the standard statistical 300 homes.
Right.
But out of that, then they took the trend analysis that I think would be extremely valuable for us in the things that we have in front of us to vote on, right? So what I would like to see out of this discussion is, number one, your thoughts. Number two, bringing it forward to the council, and I know the council does want it. I met with Tom on this just to get his support, and thinking that the 10,000 might not be enough. It could be,
Who?
but we don't know. It depends on how we want to do it. I'm just a strong believer in the questions that are going to be asked of our residents are done by professionals that
Right.
do this for a living. Unlike the community center, we did it in-house. They were good
Right.
questions, but there is a science to it, and people do make a living at doing this. So I think the biggest part of our expenditure on this would be hiring a third-party vendor. We tell them what we want to know, general categories, and they design the questions. Then we could have we could come up with maybe a small committee, maybe even a little ad hoc committee about then how to proceed after the questions. Do we let the third party actually do the canvassing? Or do we maybe assume it through media outfits? Well, I agree with you. I think it needs a discussion, but a positive part about that was when we did the community center, I was impressed with, we had 1,300 respondents.
Yeah, I mean, and for a non-scientific survey and for a survey that wasn't done by professionals,
Correct.
I mean, that was fine.
Yeah.
I know the 10 grand, I can tell you right now that 10 grand's not gonna buy you much of anything.
Well,
For surveys, just
That
doing a basic political survey, just a real yes or no, or which candidate you like more than the other, costs you a good $15,000-$20,000 in a town the size of Scarborough.
right.
But that being said, I mean, I like how you're thinking, because I firmly believe it needs to be done by a third party. That
Yes.
it can't have any bias in it,
Right.
that comes about by you or me or Jonathan or anyone else going out knocking on doors and talking to
Right.
people. But what is it we want to know? And I think a general type of survey like they did in the past, some of that's pretty interesting because it does give you gives you a snapshot of a point in time
Right.
of where the town is and where people in the town think they want to go, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to see us put more money into doing something and doing it correctly.
Doing it correctly, right?
Yeah,
Yep, yep. So, and I 100% agree with you. That's why I think we can guide the process, but it's got to be third party. So again, that's the broader conversation with the full town council, make sure everybody's on board with that.
Yeah.
I talked to one that said they will gladly come to a Zoom meeting just to tell us what they could offer,
Oh,
no
sure.
pricing.
Yeah.
Right? And so we could get thought, and then we could ask them, well, what do you need from us? We're thinking,
Yeah.
We could tell you what we want to know. And then you could help us understand that.
Yeah. Have you talked to GP Cog or
Yeah.
Maine Municipal about any other towns or cities that have done this recently and who they've used?
I have not, but that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Because this is definitely not going to be a rushed thing. Tom tempered me a little bit, and I really respect, because he's been through this stuff. He said,
Right.
by the time, we can drive it as a committee, okay, get the backing from the full council, the support of the full council.
Right.
And then we have to, especially with COVID, when warm weather comes up, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to be outdoors every second I get, and I'm not going to necessarily care about a survey. So, he was thinking
Right.
around maybe September timeframe, which is
Right.
reasonable, to do it right, because I think this is so critical. Think about the demographics that have shifted in the town since 2000, right?
Oh, yeah.
We were at, how many did I say?
6,500.
We're well over 9,000 now, well over that. Our census is not accurate. You will see, I have had discussions with Tom about this, and Karen at Sedco. Census says we got about 20,500, okay? And all you have to do is quick math. Tony will tell you that we have 17,800
Right.
voters, clean
Right.
voters, meaning
Right.
no deceased voters. When people move out, they're still not on our logs.
Right.
17,800 registered voters. I can count in my neighborhood a half a dozen people that are not registered to vote. Okay. Then you factor in 3,000 students that more than likely aren't voting. Maybe the seniors are, but we are well over 20,000. My bet is 23. We need to. So anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're at about 23,
Yeah.
between 23 and 24,000.
But the gist of it is the demographics have changed drastically. And I think we need to really get a pulse of what the town wants, and not around money, just trends. Do you support expanding a library? What do you think about a consolidated school? No money.
Well, isn't the library, poor Jonathan's trying to get a word in edgewise. Gabe. Sorry,
Oh, I'm
Jonathan.
sorry.
That's okay.
Isn't the library, and you're the library guy, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they talking about potentially not expanding and just like moving to the downtown, or?
I think they're gonna assess that as an option just because the
Yeah.
opportunity is there with the downtown. I don't
Yeah.
think they're married to that idea at all
Yeah.
at this point. I think they just want to say,
They're just throwing
let's-
things out.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
look at it because we have more time than they originally thought because they're
Right,
now
and this
shifting to
year is not a good
2022.
year. Right.
Yeah.
right.
But what I'm trying to just understand from you, Ken, a little bit more is like, because I'm hearing a couple things. I hear we have 10 grand that was set aside to do some sort of public engagement activity, but a lot of what you're describing, to Jean Marie's point, sounds like a much bigger effort. And so are we talking about one or the other? Or are we talking about both? Because I still feel like we do have the 10 grand that we could put to good use to do some sort of engagement while we kind of figure out, or we say we're not going to spend it and we're going to wait, or I don't know if we can't not spend it, but like what that means for what we're trying to do in a bigger, more effective capacity to do a much broader scale assessment that is likely going to be more than 10 grand.
Right, and it's a good question, and so this again, just is my understanding, and maybe Jean Marie could shoot it down or support me. The $10,000 was set aside for a community survey, okay?
Yeah.
Now, you can define public engagement a lot broader than a community survey. Community survey, the gist of it is you ask questions and then you analyze the results to find trends. Okay, so I don't look at them as the same, community engagement and the survey. I look at it as pure, we need a pulse of the people, as many people as we can get involved. That's why the reason why I brought up the 2010 and the phone thing with 247, I know 246, I know probably statistically that is probably accurate, okay? But I'm a strong believer in you get as many people that want to participate in the
Yeah,
survey.
but if you've got an outfit that knows what they're doing, they can sample
Yes,
and they know what they're doing when they sample. So they
Correct.
will sample like 300 or whatever they decide the number is.
Yep.
And it does come out. I mean, that's why they call it
Correct. That's
scientific
absolutely
survey.
correct. Yeah, I mean, and again, that's why a third party, I'd rather have a third.
Right.
We could share our thoughts with a third party and then they tell us what really needs to be done because they're the professionals. This is what they do.
Right. And knowing just enough to be dangerous about this stuff, because one of my papers in graduate school was on surveying. Lucky you. No. Is that you need to know what you want to know at the end. So what is it you're trying to find out? And then you walk it backwards from there. Then you bring in your consultants or your experts and say, this is what we want to know. You tell us how we're going to find that out.
That's right. That's right. And that's what I thought somewhere in the not too distant future, have a non-action discussion with the town.
Yeah.
Ask them, what is it? What do we want to know? You know,
Yeah.
what is it that we want to know? And then how
Yeah.
can we frame that to give to a third party vendor to have a discussion on, and then maybe an RFP. I know we have to go through some,
Yeah,
formal.
you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we can still reach out to some folks that have already done work.
Oh, sure.
For their feedback, for their insight, and if they're part of the RFP process, then we go with that. So
Right.
Yeah, just
I
just
th- I-
throwing this out there because we're kind of brainstorming right now, but at the finance committee meeting, we've been talking a lot about, revisiting how we develop long-term financial plans. And one of the challenges that Larissa brought up back when she was here at the meeting I watched was, in order to do that, you really need to have a really good understanding of like what the community wants in order to
Right.
create a long-term financial plan.
that's
So I
right.
almost view these can, depending on the direction we go, aligning a little bit with what the finance committee is trying to do
Correct.
to really make sure, if the intent is let's get feedback from the community to really help us do something. To Jean Marie's point, the actionable thing might be, we really want to develop a long-term financial plan that's driven by the needs and the wants and the desires of the community.
Right.
And we don't know what they want to use
That's
that
right.
to inform a long-term financial plan. And so I think there might be an opportunity as this advances to try and marry those two together.
Correct, and I agree. I mean, if you think about it, if we get the right topics and the right questions, that should drive our policy decisions, because we are here representing the residents. And if we know truly, and if we feel comfortable that the sampling, the results we've got back truly does represent our community, then it's a lot easier going into a tough decision, a policy discussion, because we know what the residents want. And
You do understand that you're not going to have any of this done before we come up with GMO or
no, I know.
plot plan or anything.
No, and that's kind of why I mentioned Tom level set me. I agree with it. This is probably a September thing, and to do this, I really think to do this and do it right, it will be a valuable tool for not only us, but
Right.
on after next year, there's, you know how we rotate? There should be
Yes.
a document that any council coming in,
Right,
if they truly represent the residents, they have
right.
something to go back and get a feel for. So
Have you talked to Karen Martin at all
I have not.
about who does these?
Good idea.
She's another resource.
Good idea.
Because in development work, economic development work, they use this stuff all the time. Or they're familiar with, how do you get surveys, who are the people out there doing them,
Yep.
what the needs are.
Yeah, and just
Because
as a
I don't
side-
want to reinvent any wheels either. If there's
That's
already
correct.
information out there, we don't want to be duplicating it.
That is correct. So SEDCO, and you said GCOG.
MMA, Maine Municipal, and GP Cog. They're all good. The
Yeah.
Muskie School too, if you really want to get crazy with it.
Yeah, and feel free if you want to reach out to somebody you might know within the organization.
I can.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I called and had a lengthy conversation with Design Marketing, if I have that right.
Yeah,
They actually did our 1990 and our 2000.
Yeah.
The gentleman I spoke with started in the year 2000.
who was it? Do you remember his name?
Yes,
This is a quiz.
I think it was Larry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's right.
But anyway, he says, I asked him again, just trying to get a sense, no promises. I told him, your time is money, and I don't waste people's time. But would you be open to coming to a Zoom meeting, just to have a general discussion on what your firm does?
Yeah.
He said, absolutely. Matter of fact, I can dig out some of the material that we used in the 2000s. I said, well, that might be of value because some things may not have changed. But again, professional. So
Yeah. And
So,
we want to make sure we get someone who's legit. There's a lot of them out there that you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. So
what do you think? What are your thoughts? What are the next? And we know this is a slow, long process, but to keep it moving, what do you think should be the next steps? And again, I'll run with anything that nobody else wants to or is comfortable with me running it.
well, I think you need to be talking to the full council.
Okay.
And as you say, as a non-action item,
Yeah.
just to say, hey, look, this is what's been perking in our
Yeah.
committee, and we want to socialize it with you guys, in front of the public, and test the waters.
Yep.
I would think to do that, we might want to, at least at the committee level, define some key objectives that we want it to accomplish first.
Yeah.
And maybe it's options, right?
Yeah.
Option 1 would be this
Options,
objective,
yeah.
option 2 would be this, option 3 would be this. And we think
Yep.
option 1 is going to cost, an arm and a leg. Option 2 we can do for the
Yeah.
10 grand, and option 3 we're not, like, just to give them a little bit more information to say,
Yep.
we want to do something and there's options. Which one do we want to kind of
Yeah.
go
and
after?
the only thing I want to just challenge on that is I'm assuming that the discussion is well ahead of before what we know is going to cost anything, right? Because we probably haven't even met with a third party vendor that does this. I can tell you in design decisions, I told him, I said, look, hypothetically, I've got $10,000. Do you think I can get anywhere near what I want with 10,000?
Did he laugh at you?
Yeah.
No. Well, this again, I understand the sales, And he said,
Let me come in and talk to you, and then we can talk.
well, he said, well, it probably wouldn't be 10, but it wouldn't be much more than that. And he said, I'll tell you, when we deal with municipalities, we do a lot of things that are time at no charge. I just like the thought of that. So anyway, he told me, yeah, it can go from 10 to 30. And that's why I said,
Yeah. I was going to say closer to 30.
He goes, no, we can work with you. So I agree with what you said, John. It just, think about the options if you want. Send me a note or something like that. I don't want to factor in money yet because I want this discussion to happen to the council before we even having the money discussion. Okay, we gotta find the temperature of the council's desire to do this. And I hope it's unanimous. I really do. I'll be very disappointed if it's not.
I'm trying to remember the context in which I got that 10 grand. I think it was a put up or shut up deal
Yeah.
that people were complaining about. Well, you know, the public says this, public says that. And, you know, I was like, yeah, they are. Not my life, they aren't. And
Right,
anyway, so it came out that I was like, all right, then give me 10 grand and let's do a study.
let's do something. Yeah, because
Yeah.
if you remember, the last time we did this was 2010, and that was overall satisfaction with our services, which is a good
Yeah.
thing to do. But the ones that are prior were deeper trend analysis. What do the people think? So I think really there's a blend in there. We can get both in there. So
Well, I think, I mean, just off the top of my head, it's like, what direction is the direction of the town, given where we are? I mean, we're a very populous suburb of Portland. I mean, that's what it is.
It is.
Yes, we are growing and we are gonna grow, but we want to keep control on growth. I mean, is it along those lines? As opposed to, oh, are you happy that we have a Dairy Queen at you know, the corner
do.
of Dunstan, or,
We
you know what I'm
do.
saying? No, I'm just saying, you know,
right, no, it's trends.
yeah,
Again, that's why I like the 2010s. I like the category.
yeah,
It's growth in general, land
Yeah.
use policies, the public schools. And again, when we meet with the
Yeah.
school, we can mention it to them. What would they like to know, you know,
Yeah.
from the whole populace about the school? To
well,
me,
we could get them to chip in some money.
that's very possible. Although I think if we want to chip in some money for them on
Of course,
something.
it's our money, but what am I saying?
Okay, so what this will be a takeaway. What we'll do is I'll look at the next few agendas or reach out to the leadership and find out, hey, where do we have, you know, because once in a while we do have kind of a nice mellow night, although I don't think that's going to be right off. And maybe ask to put an action item just for general discussion. And then this committee, we can bring something forward, you know, a paragraph or something about what we're thinking, and just again have a general discussion. That's what a non-action item is all about.
Yeah.
Okay, and then take it from there, because maybe from there we can get some categories, possibly. You know, we
Mhm.
might suggest, but after that, maybe we can set up to have some third-party folks come in just to describe the process to us. You know, what
Yeah.
is it you need from us? And once you get that, what would we expect to get from you?
Ken, if you could send me, I'd be interested in seeing a copy of that 2020. I mean, whatever it was, 2000.
I'll send it right after this
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
Me
that'd
too.
be great.
It's a great, I'll tell you what, it's a great document. It's almost like we should do that now. I mean, it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
And I had a chuckle because some of the people that were on it, like
Yeah.
Sinead,
Right,
he was the chair of it. There's such a history there,
right.
you know, that would definitely reach out to Rick. Say, hey, Rick, do you remember when you did that?
That's right.
Get some feedback from him on that. So,
Yep, yep.
So, okay.
And out of curiosity, where did you find the copy of the one you've reviewed, the 2020 or the 2000 survey?
It's in the 2000 growth and services report.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
I know, that's ancient history. That's ancient history.
It is, and you know, this is how much we've changed. And granted, I'm sure there's still some vestige or some leftover, but 79. Remember, we had 39% return, right? That's phenomenal. 79% thought there was way too much growth too fast.
You think?
Hence, that's where the GMO came from. Okay. That's where.
Well, yes and no, but that's all right.
But
Scarborough's
that's where
always
the
fought.
GMO came from.
I know, but ever since they put the what do you call it? The extension off from 295
Yeah,
into Scarborough and got rid of Kmart, Kmart went away.
right.
That's when all hell broke loose with Scarborough. That's when the old timers started no, we can't grow, we're gonna, whatever.
That's
But
correct.
that was really the beginning, the genesis of the development of Scarborough.
And if you think about it, not to digress too far, I've been in town
I
for
know.
5 years. Okay, so I've been here since '84. This was a direct result of Coach Clanton, right? Because that's
Oh, right. That's
Coach
right.
Clanton, Foxcroft.
All those people.
Back at that time, that was big development,
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And that's why the GMO was 1 permit per dwelling, except if you build a duplex, we'll let you build a duplex for 1 permit. Because back then, we didn't talk about condos and multifamily and things like that. So really interesting. You always have to keep the context of the time.
Right.
Out of the 79%, about 60% still wanted to keep Scarborough to be the small town feel. And
Oh, yeah.
we're not there anymore.
No.
You may long for it or wish for it, but we're not there anymore. And to tell you the truth, I've liked a lot of things that I've seen happen in the town with the growth. I know up until recently, anytime my spouse and I wanted to go to a restaurant, we had to go to Portland. 'Cause
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no place to eat in Scarborough, right? Now I can almost walk to 5 of them and some decent ones. So anyway, I digress. So item number 7. Oh, I made some notes on this. I know this might look redundant, but one thing about me is I got a pretty good memory. If you recall, this came up in the last meeting about the ad hoc committee communications, because we have 2 counselors that are liaisons in both committees. And it was decided in the last meeting, because we were having a workshop the following weekend with the full town council, that we were going to defer this topic until we got direction from the full town council at that workshop. Everybody remember that?
No.
Okay, well, we can do a deep rewind if you want, but that's what happened.
Okay.
Matter of fact, if you look at the minutes, Jean Marie, it even says,
Which meeting?
Marie Katerina
No,
mentioned wait,
hey, look. Now
waiting
look.
until the workshop.
I probably did because I live by the Pareto principle, baby. I only concern myself with the 20% that makes the world go around. But anyway, going
Right.
on. So
So then we had our workshop. And if
who's we? The council?
the full town council workshop,
Okay.
it was goals, remember?
Yes.
So we're going to try to get direction from the full town council on this item, ad hoc committee communication. Give us some guidance on what you want.
Yeah.
And the direction that came from the full town council was, you're the communication committee, you have counselors on those ad hoc committees, communicate. That was it. So let's talk about that. So we have 2 ad hoc committees. It's the expectation that the liaison counselors on those committees are to communicate status and things of interest to the residents.
To the residents or to
To the residents.
to the-
And this is again
well,
through,
through our liaison. Well, we can do that when we talk at town council meetings.
that's true, because you're communicating to the
Right.
counselors and the 3 people that might be watching YouTube. Okay. We have 3 mechanisms to communicate to the residents. We have e-news twice a month, and we have the leader. So that is the medium for communicating. And the direction from the full council was that the liaisons on those committees will do the communicating. It was.
Actually, I will tell you that the charter committee is going to be talking about who's going to be doing communicating. It's on our agenda for our next meeting, whenever the heck that is.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because that's a good point. And where are they gonna communicate? They're gonna probably post something on the website.
Well, they were more in reaction to people's emails. We've got people who've been emailing to our common email address.
Yep,
And there was some discussion as to whether it should be just the town councilors who are answering those, or whether everybody and anybody on the committee can answer them.
Yep.
Or what. So they've got to come up with some plan, or they've got to make some decision as to what's what. And Liam, I'm gonna pick on you a little here. Do we have portals, so to speak, on the website? I should know this, but I'm sorry I don't. That say, if you want more information on the charter committee, go here. If you want more information on downtown committee, go here, or what are we doing?
Yeah, so we have, again, each committee has their own page. And we
Yeah.
have that sort of intake form where people can submit questions or comments. Again,
Yeah.
that was a form that was generated out of the discussions at this committee. We haven't, I guess that something that we'll discuss on Thursday night is whether that's sufficient for the intake of those things. Obviously, people can also email the general committee email. But those are kind of the mechanisms. What goes back in response to that, I think, is where there's going to be discussion at the committee level. To your point, Jean, is the chair going to take the responsibility for responding to each inquiry to say, thank you for your question or comment. It's been received. It will work its way through the subcommittee or full committee. And I think that that's really the process question I have for Thursday night is how do we want to handle those? We've received some pretty detailed suggestions and recommendations for changes. Should those be sort of vetted at the full committee and then reallocated to the subcommittee? Should it just go automatically to the subcommittee for each article? But in terms of communication, I think I think there was also the suggestion about should staff coordinate with the committee and or chair to respond to each inquiry or question. And I think that, speaking as a staff member, I think we're all open to whatever is going to work best from the committee. But I've heard some critiques in the past about allowing staff to take the lead on communications between committees and constituents and the public. So I don't have it. That's my non-answer answer.
so.
Yeah, that's okay.
So could I expand on that? Because I think there may be a disconnect in understanding. Doesn't mean I'm right, okay? When I talk about communicating to the public about what's going on in these committees, I'm not talking about answering one-off questions that are coming from the public. I'm talking about the 23,000 citizens in this town that aren't all day long on our website and go into the committee portal of that committee or submitting a question, okay? It is the inner workings, the progress being made that is a perfect fit for number one, our e-news, which will hit 1,800 people, or the leader, which will hit 10,000 people. That's what I mean about communication out of this committee. It's not the one-off answers because nobody's answering my questions on those. Sorry, Leah, just kidding.
Well, I'm the one that says contact Liam. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
So I'm talking here about the ad hoc committee communicating to the general public through our two mediums, e-news and the leader.
So one thing that we're doing, Ken, for the downtown committee, there actually is a subcommittee that's formed for communications that they asked to have a counselor participate on, and I said I would do it since I'm on our communications committee.
Yep.
So I'll bring this as a topic when we meet tomorrow, just to align on how do we want to use the e-newsletter and Counselor Corner over the next 4 months as a potential way to reach the public, that I would take responsibility for doing it, that I might want their support to help craft whatever communications. But there are, I also did provide them the public engagement and noticing manual, because I did think it did a good job of outlining different medium that are available to them if they decide they want to do more communications with the public. And so I think it's important that probably the counselors are very aware of whatever they're doing. And I don't know what the charter committee is planning in terms of communications and public engagement, and we haven't defined it yet for the downtown committee.
We haven't gotten that far. The charter committee really got bogged down in process.
Right.
But I'm sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
And so
Right.
I think as that comes together, I think what they want to do is really much more going to inform what we're going to want to do at the council level, because we probably want to partner with it. But again, until the committees kind of define what they want to do, I think at a minimum, we could probably, Jean Marie and I, since we're both on this committee and on those ad hoc committees, can commit to be that person to, if there's something that comes up where there's a good opportunity, making sure that we flag the e-news or the counselor corner, that we want to make sure we use that at the appropriate time.
Right, and think about, again, communication is not my forte, it's very obvious, but at times it's very simple. And the way I look at communicating from these ad hoc committees are, the general public doesn't know, and lots of folks do want to know. Both committees are broken down into subcommittees. You could write a whole article about that. What are those subcommittees doing? I sat on the snowy day the other day and I watched 3 subcommittees. There was a committee looking at the budgeting process. There was a committee looking at the town manager role and how it interacts with the town council. I mean, just a wealth of information that we could share with the public. Doesn't have to be super duper information. It's just standard stuff. And that's what I mean. Maybe I look at it too simply and I assume that people understand that.
I agree with you. I think at this point, I think it's important to have consistent communications, even if we don't have these huge updates to provide. But I think it would look bad that I am putting it in the e-newsletter announcing that we have these ad hoc committees and we have a whole article on it and then there's nothing. Like, I think it would be good to have regular updates. And so the first one was announcing it, and the most recent e-newsletter was highlighting the form, driving traffic to the web pages, and just letting people know when the meetings were. But if we could just keep updates consistent like that.
Right.
Well, as Allison, is that something that you could do or check in with us? Because I don't have the bandwidth
But
to
she's
be writing articles.
Right, and I don't
this
think it
and
needs
that.
to be an article every time. I'm thinking
Okay.
even just like a social post. And like you said, Ken,
Right.
that subcommittees have been created, just.
I mean,
simple updates.
they had an actual physical site walkthrough at the Downs. I think a lot of people would want to know about that. I mean,
Yeah.
actual committee, 9 people went out in the freezing temperature and actually walked the site that they're making decisions on. That's just simple communication to me. So anyway, give that some thought. But while we're there, today is the 8th. Who wants to do the 15th e-news article? Do I see a show of hands?
No,
I got the leader. Remember, I got the leader, which is the big one. Anybody want to take the 15th?
I think it would be good, maybe, and I don't know if it's more appropriate for Paul, because I know he mentioned he was going to be doing a budget video, but I would propose trying to get John, and I can reach out to him
Okay.
to just talk about the budget and that it's starting.
I was just gonna ask if that's
Good
right
idea.
for this
Good
time.
idea.
Yeah.
And John, I'm not speaking for him, but I know John's forte is not doing an article. Again,
Yeah.
that's why
Okay.
if folks understand Allison's role, we're not abusing her. We're not taking advantage of her. This is why she's here and she really wants to do it. And Liam will always tell us if we've overstepped our bounds, correct, Liam?
I'll try.
Oh, yeah, you will. So,
Well,
yeah,
I'm happy to like take the lead in working with John and crafting something, and then Allison doing what we've been doing, where I send it to you and you make it better.
That'd be good.
If we
Yeah.
want to take that approach. When do you need it by?
By Friday, the latest.
This
I'm just
Friday?
gonna- Yeah, sorry.
Okay, let me, okay.
Okay.
That's why Jean Marie said no.
I know.
No.
We'll make
Smartest-
it work.
You know why? Because it's Monday, right? 'Cause,
Right.
Yeah, it's
So,
Monday.
just to clarify, so are we talking about a report out on the ad hoc committee work? Or are we talking about a budget update?
Well, we did conflate the two. It started out with the ad hoc. However,
Yeah.
the budget is in process, right? I mean, it's already hit the press. So it might not be, it would be a logical item.
I agree because on the homepage, we're making the switch to this week to highlight the budget portal. And I know that's being updated right now. So it's all
So,
happening now.
so outside of some discussion happening at the, again, I applaud, and I wasn't familiar with the downtown committee formulating a subcommittee on communication, dedicated to communication. That's a great suggestion. I'm not sure if that's where we'll get to on Thursday with the charter.
Right.
But I did, in response to some feedback we've received on how the committee's operated to date, I did ask Allison to pull together, because it seemed like we had sort of highlighted over the last, since we started advertising for the subcommittees, kind of what the mission was and the charge. I know we've received some feedback about the pace of how things are moving, which, if anything, just underscores the importance of communication. And it looks like Councillor Anderson, you did the last e-newsletter on the 15th of January regarding the committees kind of kicking off. I'm not sure if we want to consider a monthly update to kind of what's happening. I mean, for the Charter Review Committee standpoint, right now we've obviously separated into subcommittees to focus on the minutia of some of the articles, and then there'll be sort of larger discussions in some of the bigger subjects. Maybe that's worthy of just reporting out that that's where it stands. But right now we haven't narrowed the interest. The committee has not identified where there's commonality or consensus on proposed changes. That's stuff that's just underway in the committee process.
So Liam, are you saying, like, in addition to the counselor topic on the e-newsletter, having a monthly update incorporated, or even bi-weekly, especially for the charter, because it's moving so quickly? Because I mean, I feel like we have more time on the downtown side than the charter does.
I guess that's the question. Certainly there's going to be reporting out during committee reports and the regular council meetings, but I think I heard some feedback from Councillor Johnson that may, that's fine, but not everyone tunes into that. So I guess the question is, what is the mechanism, or what do you want to see, Councillor Johnson, from either the communications committee or the liaisons or staff or the committee chairs for written updates to the general public, the other 23,000 that aren't in attendance for our Zoom meetings?
Well, again, I would look at the subcommittees of each of those ad hoc committees to maybe provide the information for the committee, because we're not going to have those committees write the e-news or the leader. That is restricted to counselors, and hopefully it's going to stay that way, at least as long as I'm around. So, I mean, they could be a great source of the information or the topics. However, the liaisons are also on the committee. So I don't know how valuable it is to wait for something to come out of a communications committee to write an article on when you're in the committee itself. So unless
Well, actually, the counselors are on the committee, so to speak, but as I think the analogy I gave you in an email was, these committees are actually for citizen input.
yes,
And as counselors, my job is to be more like the sheepdog that's
correct.
herding the sheep and keeping them online. I'm not running the show. I'm not trying to push them in any direction or not. If I think they're going off crazy town, then, to say something like that. So our roles are a bit different, I guess.
But
That's the way to put it.
Let's have a discussion, because again, I think there's a disconnect. What communicating of the inside of the committee. It's got nothing to do with what your role is. Matter of fact, in my opinion, it even positions you better to communicate because you are a very passive participant. So you should be all ears and you know what's going on in the committee. So that's all it is communicating to the public what's going on in the committee. Am I not articulating this well enough, Allison? Please help me out.
I understand what you're saying. I'm also thinking though that maybe my role should be to reach out to Jean Marie and John and just
Right.
get the updates, and I can craft it in a way that makes sense for the
There we go.
source that it's going out on.
That makes sense to me.
Does that work? That's what,
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're
It
gonna be
doesn't always
waiting
need
for
to be a
me.
whole article. I just think a regular update would be helpful.
Yeah,
okay.
that makes
I think-
sense.
I think the meeting notes too that are put together are also good sources.
Okay, I'll have
That
to
go
check
out.
those regularly.
So I think, because again, like, I think that what I would provide you would just, and it's
Okay.
still helpful, Allison, because it's not going to be as detailed as the meeting notes can be, but I'm
Okay.
happy to provide you the key highlights that happened that week from my lens at the committee level, and we can
Okay.
figure out how we want to.
Okay, so Allison, how are you thinking that will be presented? Will that be just a post on the website? Or can it be an e-news article? Because again, the e-news council corner belongs to the council. The council
Yeah.
corner on the leader belongs to the council. That doesn't necessarily mean we don't have assistance in crafting the message to those meetings.
Well, she can draft stuff and I can sign off on it.
There you go.
Yeah, and I
I
think
mean,
it can
I
just be
did,
a-
I did that. I
Okay.
did that in a past life. I was the person that crafted stuff and gave it to
Yep.
the governor or a commissioner or whatever, and they make their changes and sign off on them.
Yep.
But they didn't draft them. They didn't have time for that stuff.
Right, okay, so I think then we've come to an agreement in how to communicate of the committee work, taking notes, hearing from the liaisons
Yep.
to Allison,
Mhm.
and Allison can craft something up. You guys review it. If you want to put a little flavor on it, you can. If not, we can send as is. Right?
Yeah, and also that being paired with the updates that are happening on those web pages, because in the e-newsletters, I'll be wanting to link to those web pages for
Yep.
people. I looked back on the February 1st e-news that went out, and the ad hoc downtown development committee page was one of the top most clicked links.
There
So
you go.
it just shows it's important to put it in
That's right.
regularly.
People want to know. People
Right.
really do want to know, even if some of the stuff is real mundane, that they want to know. I mean, I was thrilled to hear that 9 people went out to the site on a winter day
Mhm.
to at least see the space. So the concepts that they're talking about, that they have some context of it. I thought it was great. Great. The one thing about the e-news and the leader, you don't boil the ocean in it. You can't solve the world's problems. It is truly just to inform, and hopefully, if it's done right, drive to the web.
Exactly.
Jean Marie's article on the Masonic Hall was a great example of that. You did a great job on that, and we got a lot of web traffic on that. Okay, so that's what the goal is of this committee, using those 2 mediums. That's all. And I'm
So-
sorry if you think I'm trying to say anything else. I'm definitely not. I know
So
my
just
boundaries.
for clarity for this week's deadline,
Budget.
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 I'll work with John on a budget one, but we're also in parallel gonna do
An
an
update
update?
on the
Okay.
committees, and I'll reach
Switching
out to you an email about
Yeah,
that.
because charter's meeting Thursday night. This Thursday? Yeah, this Thursday.
Okay. Moving on.
Days. I
Goodness.
don't know, but I've got to get going here pretty soon.
I know. Dinner's on the table. Something's burning. So let's try.
I don't cook, so.
So let's try number 9 again, just for a minute. We had a discussion about council goals or committee goals, but we didn't agree on anything, and we definitely didn't codify anything. And goals in the ethers just don't make it. So let's have a discussion on some goals that we can put in writing, we can agree on, and we can just march to. We don't need 100 goals. We don't need 20 goals, we can do it with 5 goals. I've got some ideas if you would like to hear. They're simple goals, okay? I just have to get on the other computer. One goal is to engage with the BOE committee on an ongoing basis, okay? To see.
What do you mean by ongoing?
Well, we'll
Quarterly?
no, we'll take it from them, just so we can find maybe some common ground that we can work together throughout the year. It shouldn't be just budget, okay? Maybe that turns out to not be the case. Maybe they don't want to deal with the town council other than budget, okay? But at least the goal is that we can engage with the BOE to see if we can find some common ground to work together through the year. That's all.
Mr. Chair, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, I
Yes.
thought we were, one of our things was to talk about this communication committee kind of pulling back somewhat, that we go to quarterly meetings and not be trying to run the world of communication because we have Allison.
Correct. So, well, again, we just have a disconnect on council communication and Allison's communication. That's all. So, and we can have a secondary discussion on that, but not tonight, because I know you have something on the stove that's burning and you want to go to quarterly.
It's not on the stove, it's my business.
Okay. Now, we heard you loud and clear, and again, I think the overall goal, I think we did agree to assess that over the year to see if we could go to quarterly. I personally think we've got some work that we could do. We just had a pretty good discussion on a community survey. If we were to do nothing but that, we should probably be meeting on a monthly basis to drive that process. Do you agree?
No, but
Okay.
that's me.
John?
I think even beyond that and the stuff we've discussed, I still think we got a lot to do, at least in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I think after that, I think it's probably worth reassessing where we're
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, and we agreed to do that. We agreed to continuously agree. Now, Jean Marie, again, I love you.
Good thing.
In a committee of 3, the quorum is 2. So
Yeah, I know, that's fine.
so if you do have some pressing business one time and you can't make it, don't feel guilt about it. Just
Oh, I don't feel guilt. I got over guilt a long time ago.
I
I was brought up Catholic and I'm recovered now,
I
so.
was giving you a nice out on that. You had to come back with honesty. See, that's what happens.
I'm sorry, I'm being naughty tonight. I don't know what's in me.
That's okay. I thought another goal was to continue to build upon our topic inventory. Simple goal.
Yeah,
Okay, do we agree with that? John, do you
Yep.
agree with that?
Yeah.
How about make a commitment for this committee to drive the community survey process? Okay, because without a group driving it, everybody's busy at the council, it won't happen. So again, a goal, and it's got an end to it, is to drive the process for the community survey. Okay, simple goal. Do you agree with that, Katerina? Jean Marie?
yes.
Thank you. John?
Yep.
Thank you. And my last one, again, so I only had 4 goals. So it's real
Oh,
simple.
good.
Is to commit to ensuring counselor articles to each e-news push and the leader. That's all we got to do. Because again, I'm reaching out to folks. I don't mind doing it. I'm hoping somewhere along the line we can come up with a way that does, because again, when I'm gone, I really hope the communication doesn't stop. So somehow we got to get a process that lives beyond this committee, and it just becomes part of nature of the council. I don't know if that's policies and procedures. I don't know. But right now, all I want this committee as a goal is to commit to ensuring that we have 2 articles a month in the e-news from a town councilor and 1 article a month for the leader from a town council. That's it. I have 4 goals.
Well, that's where I go back to, instead of that first article, that leader article should just be that should be your first article for the e-news too. That way you got less work.
True.
and
Sure.
it's focused.
And true, and basically committing to that, what you just said, there's no influence to it. At times that may not be the case, but I'm a firm believer in leveraging what's already been done,
Right,
maybe making some adjustments because, kind of like the marijuana thing, the e-news talked about a workshop. The workshop had already gone by, so you don't want that in the, you know what I mean? Small adjustments. But with all communication, it's the message it needs to be repeated a lot.
yeah, that's true.
Absolutely correct. Doesn't have to be a new article for the leader. All I want is a goal, if we could commit to at least ensuring that something goes out on the first Friday of the month in the leader and on the 15th and the 1st of the month in e-news. That's all. Do you think you can commit to that, Jean Marie?
I will do my best.
Thank you. John?
Yep.
Okay. So that's all I've got for goals. I'm sure you've got a list mile long, Jean Marie.
No.
All right, Liam, my favorite part. Any public comment?
I see no one in attendance.
Oh, thank God they didn't see you and me going at it,
I
Ken.
even paid the guy to show up and he didn't show up. Okay. Number 11, future agenda items. Okay. So is everybody amenable to meeting with the BOE on our next communication committee meeting? It will be,
Yeah, and that will be March 8th, right?
it'll be March 8th because we're going to move to the second Monday.
Yep.
That will be the only agenda item. It will be a general discussion. Might craft up a non-action item for the town council to get buy-in on the committee. It'd be something small, but we'll leave it to one agenda item. Is everybody?
I have
Yes.
I guess my question is more like, what role does this committee play in supporting budget communications? And when do we, if we do play a role, when do we start kind of talking about that? Because if we wait a month, I think we might be getting into the heat of things or starting the process. And so I don't know if we need, even with the school committee, we could focus on the budget as a specific topic of communications potentially.
Correct.
Well, can
Um,
I ask a question?
Well,
On top of that, just to
Okay.
add to that?
Yep.
Which begs the question of Allison and her role and her job here with the town. Is that something, I don't, Allison, and feel free to pipe in if you want, or Liam, is Allison's role as communications person also to ferret out info or to make sure she's getting it from like the chair of budget and whatever and drafting up articles? I mean, or am I misinterpreting your role, Allison?
I imagined that hearing that it was a hot topic for this time frame, that budget would be one of the top communications points for the next X number of months. And so I was definitely planning on doing that. But that being said, I need to know the information and the people who are responsible for it, I would hope could provide that for me.
Right.
I thought it would be helpful in these meetings to take some time, like, for example, we had ad hoc committee communication on the agenda to like hear updates as part of that process, during a certain agenda item, it would be hearing specific updates. So like if budget was on the agenda for budget communications, if that was on the agenda for next month or 2 months from now, it'd be good to have a brief snapshot update from town council's perspective for me as part of this committee meeting.
Right.
So my next question along with that is, so Allison, do you take the initiative to do that because that's part of your job?
Yes, so it's
'Cause
both.
I'm trying to understand your role.
I'm still working on figuring out the rhythm of who to contact when, but at the same time, as me reaching out, I'm also getting some feedback from other staff members who have something that they are pushing out that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. So it's kind of a two-way street.
Right, and again, it's a good example of maybe what Allison would report versus the perspective of a counselor, okay? In budget could be a great opportunity just to have an article on why do we bond, okay? People don't understand why we bond. People do not understand bonding. All they know is every time we bond, their taxes go up. So it's an opportunity to level set and have people understand why we bond. You know, and there's a whole depth of things that can be written on a bond. That's budget related. We could have articles on SIP. I would not expect Allison to be writing about our what's SIP?
And I'm not saying that. I'm
Right.
saying Allison would be assisting
Yes,
whoever in drafting an article,
yeah,
rather than waiting for it to come out of us, because that's not our
Right.
primary job as counselors. It's not to be writing articles for the newspaper.
communicating with the public. No, absolutely not. I
No,
agree.
like I would hear from you, the top things to talk about from town council are these ad hoc committees and the budget. So then I can help facilitate creative ways to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hearing from you who the best people on council would be to work with on them.
And John.
And
oh,
and-
go ahead, Jean.
and I'm sorry, and then I'll shut up. And then when you're getting into specifics like bonding and this and that and the other thing, I'm a town councilor and I don't feel, I mean, I know enough about bonding to be dangerous. I would rather, if I were a member of the public, I'd rather hear from the expert on bonding.
Well, but that's correct. And there was, and to write a good article, you reach out to the experts and get.
Right.
You don't try to boil the ocean in 500 words. You can't. You give
Right.
information so that people feel that, hey, they're telling me about something. And if I need to know more about it, where I can go to read more of a detailed thing. That's what it is. Okay. And John, just for your benefit, last year in the budget, this committee was not responsible for the communication of it. However, I thought we had a pretty good tempo going with videos. I think
Yeah.
each counselor and the BOE did a little video on budget terms, you know, and some are more fun and some weren't fun. Okay, so I think we may do something like that, but I don't see that as the role of consolidating, coordinating the budget communication through this committee. We can take leadership. So the future, and one other item, just to give this some thought before we adjourn, is kind of speaking of those videos that were done last year, and some of them were pretty clever. As a matter of fact, Jean Marie, you did one on the homestead exemption. You know?
Yes, I did. And they had to, it was like pulling teeth to get me to do it, but I did it.
But it was pretty good. So give this some thought. I'm the liaison on the cable television committee
Oh, no.
that hasn't met since 1965. Okay. And when I turn on 1302, it's a loop, right? 1302 is the loop of, I'm seeing BOE meetings from last budget, honest to God, okay? It might be worth a discussion with, and I can do it as a liaison if I can get at least some confidence backing from this committee, as to how maybe we could utilize that facility better. Because maybe I don't know if we can have things, you know, in a rotating schedule on certain times of the day. Maybe it could be a collection of videos on the budget, things like that. But we do have a whole other medium that, believe it or not, a lot of people in this town use. They'll hit.
Are they still watching it? Are people still watching that? 'Cause-
They do, after
Are
they
they
find out that it moved to 1302.
Well, I know, I was gonna say, and where meetings are now on YouTube, they putting the YouTube up on that channel?
No, they are not. But see, to me, there's an opportunity there. I mean, unless of course it costs money or it takes too much time.
Liam's about to tell you something here.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
No, I think that the Zoom meetings are do have the capability anyway to be broadcast over 1302, and they do simulcast. I think in many meetings. We have
Really?
in the cable booth here during a lot of our regular council meetings.
Right. But what they broadcast and when they broadcast, I'm not sure where that decisioning is. Because like I said, I was looking at last year's budget last week, and that's snowy day, when I was watching the charter committee and the
Hey.
downtown committee. I also watched 1302 because I have no life. And I go, what am I looking at? So anyway, I think it might be worth a discussion. I'm the liaison. I'm going to have a discussion with the chair on that. So without further ado, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, no, we need to keep meeting. No, no. I'm sorry, Ken.
Wait a
I'm
minute.
being bad today.
Wait a
I
minute.
move that we adjourn.
A second.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Caterina,
Oh, yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Not quite yet. Yes, yes. Hey, it's a
At
fun
least
group.
we have fun.
Okay, that's all it cares about. Then we share thoughts. I think we've got some work to do, and it should be. Hopefully, if we do it right, it will be of value. So again,